What's going on? I'm Josh, and welcome to the Rooftop Quarantine series. This has been a photo series since I started quarantining about a month ago, though time doesn't really seem to be moving right now, and now it's becoming a YouTube series. Starting off, what is this video series actually going to be? I'd like it to be a behind-the-scenes look into the creation of my photo series, so showing you the best shots I get, the process behind taking these photos, and what it's like to be a participant in this rooftop community. I don't want to just be this passive voyeuristic photographer. I'm more interested in being an active participant in this, helping everyone meet each other and help foster a real sense of community up here. Let's get this video going by showing some of my images and breaking them down day by day along with the stories behind them, starting with the first day I shot on the roof. March 21st was the day I started photographing the series. It was one of the first warm days. It was a Saturday, and it had just a joyous energy in the air. There were a lot of introductions of people meeting each other for the first time, having never been on the roofs before, and watching people emerge onto the roofs for the first time felt like watching people emerge from a submarine after being underwater for a few days. People had been quarantining for many days now. I'd been quarantined for 9 days at this point, so watching people climb out just looks of relief, of celebration, very joyous to watch. Everyone was incredibly eager to talk to new people because this was most of our first opportunities to do so in many days, and it almost felt like a normal sunny Saturday afternoon in New York until you remembered the social distancing that was going on that made things just feel a little bit off. So roommates are all pretty closely clustered together. The reason being, New York City apartments are so small, I think most roommates have resigned themselves to the idea that if one of us is getting corona, then everyone's going to get it. So as a result, there was a really funny spread between people being clustered together with their roommates, yet being desperate to talk to anyone but their roommates. So talking to people in other clusters, and just a funny kind of spider web of conversations going on. But it was just in general very relaxing and exciting to see, and gave me hopes about the development of the community in the future. There was dancing. Gil was flying his pigeons as he normally does every day. They showed me a little baby pigeon that had just been born, and my friend and neighbor Jeremy filmed his quarantine rooftop flirtation video, which I think everyone in the world has seen at this point, and that was a funny thing to photograph the behind the scenes of and see go down. And after sunset, someone let off fireworks, and I barely caught it with this photo, but what a beautiful thing to see. On March 22nd, I took a walk and I photographed this kid who was skateboarding with a mask on in the local park, and I saw that the volleyball players were still playing volleyball in a big group together, and this is when social distancing was already totally a thing for everyone else, and this gave me very bleak feelings about how New York is going to do with coronavirus because these people are being so incredibly irresponsible. March 24th, day 12 of my quarantine, I've been really excited noticing that the community seems to be forming. People are starting to meet their neighbors who live in the same building as them, and I know that might sound crazy in most other places of the world, but in New York City, no one knows their neighbors, so it's a beautiful thing to see that finally happening. I watched a baby learning to crawl. I watched a dog being walked, a guy walking along the edge of the roof way too comfortably, totally sketching me out. Jeremy had a first date, which was absurd, workout routines, more dancing, and all in all, just a very beautiful scene up there today. March 26th, day 14 of my quarantine, I witnessed the first ever social distancing playdate and got to photograph this. There was a family, and the dad was blowing bubbles for his kid in a parking lot, and then 6 stories up, there was another little toddler on the terrace of his building, and the dad in the parking lot was blowing extra bubbles in his direction, which was really heartwarming to see. This is one of the most endearing things I've ever seen, and even though they were too far for me to yell to them and offer them the photos that I shot, they ended up getting tagged in my images, and I got to email both parents the shots, and they were really thrilled. So that was awesome, and this has been happening more and more with my photo sets, and I'm so glad because I don't want to be voyeuristic here. I do really want everyone to get to see their shots and let them know what I'm doing and get to make sure that they're okay with it. It's a generous thing for a community to allow me and accept me photographing it, so I want to be as consent-driven as possible for this. I spent all evening on the roof, and I only went down at one point just for like 5 minutes to use the bathroom, and when I came back up, Gil, the pigeon man with the binoculars, was just smitten, and he's like, dude, you missed it. There was a girl that came out to take a naked photo of herself the second you walked away. I called for you, and you were nowhere to be found, man. You missed it. Definitely had a little bit of FOMO for missing out on some quality rooftop hijinks, but at very least, I got this photo of the Empire State Building and some pigeons flying through that I'm very happy with. March 27th, day 15. Rooftop behaviors feel like they're starting to normalize. People who come out every single day, they've built up a routine, and it's lost its novelty. So I noticed a lot of boredom up on the roof today, just people staring out with nothing much to do. New groups of people emerge every single day, and they begin to establish their own routines. This couple I saw emerge under their fire escape for some painting and wine, and they look like they've been doing it for years with this perfect yoga mat set up to catch any paint. It was a great operation. Turns out this is their first time ever doing it. So love to see people getting creative. My neighbors came out for an impromptu Lady Gaga karaoke session. As you can see here, everyone's bringing their dogs out, and the dance parties continue to be plentiful. As the temperature keeps getting warmer, more people are coming out, and I'm really excited to see where all this goes. April 2nd, quarantine day 20, the dog is off the leash, and while this might sound like a metaphor for how things are going after 20 days of quarantine, this is actually something I mean quite literally. The neighbors have unleashed their dog, and this dog loves going to the very edge to look over. Cool to see, not just people are getting comfortable, but the animals too up here. In the last few days, I've witnessed breakdancing, a cello player live streaming his performance, picnics, and a few neighbors sharing their life stories with me, which I'm deeply grateful for. At this point, I just want to plug the fact that this quarantine is an incredible opportunity to hit people up you would normally not hit up, just to check in. So whether it be your next door neighbor or your distant family member or ex-girlfriend or whoever you want to hit up, it's all on the table. Take advantage of this and go talk to someone new who you wouldn't normally talk to. We could all sure use it. And my last set up to this point, April 4th through the 8th, days 22 through 25. At this point, I want to talk about how everyone in New York has a different journey to get onto the roof. Some people climb perilous, rickety fire escapes onto rooftops, while others press the roof deck button on their building's swanky elevators. And some see my camera while climbing out of a window and decide to flash me. And yes, this was first introduction to one another. Quite an introduction if you ask me, and I did confirm with Leslie that it's okay that I share these images. Back to roofs, the safety of the roof is going to play a massive role in how its quarantine culture is going to develop. So an effortless elevator ride or stair climb leading up to a roof comfortably surrounded by sturdy guardrails and banisters makes visiting an obvious decision, and carrying supplies an effortless task. Naturally, people are immediately eating meals, painting, playing instruments, bringing their babies up there, all types of behaviors. It just becomes like a normal outdoor space to them, like a normal suburban backyard would be to most people. Meanwhile, the standard roofs in my neighborhood, like my own, require climbing a sketchy ladder and lifting this heavy hatch, leading to an unmanicured rooftop that was never intended for anything more than just being a rooftop. No guardrails exist, just a flat-out drop, making the roof a dangerous place to visit. And children, elderly, really anyone who's afraid of heights isn't going to be coming up here most often. Those confident enough to make the trip have to plan strategically, packing supplies into backpacks or totes for the climb, and larger objects require multiple people to coordinate. Now, what my roof lacks in ease of access, it makes up for with spaciousness, character, and a fascinating and diverse crowd of people. Living in a strip of 7 or 8 row houses with a shared roof creates a camaraderie I don't expect the secluded upscale terrace and roof deck dwellers to easily replicate. And for that, I'm grateful. I also exchanged numbers with Zay, the dancer you saw a few days ago, and we decided to plan a shoot together. So these are some of the shots that we got, including this panorama, which I stitched together from 8 different images. You've been staring at what was essentially a photo slideshow for far too long, and it's time to look at some video. So I've been shooting little tidbits in between my photography, and I compiled this little piece. I hope you enjoy.
Driving to the show, and I scan the radio, but there's nothing on that makes me feel like dancing. Wind in the trees, but it won't rustle the leaves, and I can't stop daydreaming about crashing. In due time we can think of all of these things, but for now, if you don't mind, I'll take a load off my feet. 'Cause tonight we've got everything that we need, so let's take a moment, we'll try to enjoy the breeze.
Now that you've seen all my photos and videos up to this point, I want to talk about what's next. First of all, we have a really exciting gear change. The majority of my photos and videos have been shot with a Canon 6D Mark II and this nifty little lens here. This is a 200mm f2.8 from Canon, which I would consider relatively niche because most telephoto lenses are zoom lenses, because how do you know you're gonna get the exact focal length you're gonna want when something is so far away? But this lens, what it lacks in range, it makes up for in lightness and affordability and fastness. F2.8 is incredibly fast. So I'm a big fan of this lens. However, I decided it was time to take the series to the next level, so I hit up Adorama, and they were generous enough to loan me a bunch of different zoom lenses to test out, which you'll be seeing in the next video. So stay tuned for that. Very excited. They are incredible. A few other things in my agenda. One, just being open to any projects that my neighbors propose to me. If someone wants to model for me or have something photographed, I'm probably gonna say yes. And two, I wanna hopefully hold a gallery once this quarantine is over that will allow all these neighbors who've met each other from such a far distance to finally come together, meet at a normal distance, and maybe solidify some of the community that's been forming at a closer range. Definitely a dream of mine that we'll have to see what happens. Third thing, I would love to see what kind of quarantine art projects you are working on, so please send them my way and I'll be sharing my favorite ones in the next video. And final thing, I want to end this video with some positive notes about this quarantine, so let's get back up on the roof for that. 3 great things that are going to come of this. 1, I think every single guy with medium length hair will have a mullet by the end of this, and I'm convinced that this is going to be the year of the mullet as a result. And of course, there's also Joe Exotic and Tiger King really helping further the mullet cause in 2020. Secondly, I think there's going to be an incredible localizing movement just about everywhere. There's never been a better opportunity to get to know your neighbors, even if you have to talk through a fire escape or when you're on a walk in your suburb 6 feet away. There's just a beautiful thing about getting to look someone in the eyes that FaceTime calls are not going to make up for. And as a result, I think beautiful communities are going to be formed from this. And last thing, all of those photographers who've been claiming they're going to update their portfolios and their websites for the last 5 years are finally going to have a chance to do it. And if you get out of this quarantine without a beautifully updated website and portfolio, you've blown it. What are you doing? You wasted a quarantine.